It's been we've been talking about this for some time now, and I'm very glad that you could take time out to do this. And what time is it where you are?
It's like 6:30, it's not
Okay,
too
so
early.
it's 6:30 in the morning, so thank you for getting up early for us.
Oh, no, I get
And
up even earlier. Okay, no problem.
great. So without further ado, if you can just give a background and start off, and then we can obviously take questions as they come about and also later.
Oh, yeah, definitely. So let me begin. This is a big tsunami coming to hit our work lives. That's the way I feel about the AI wave. And it is the fastest technological change which has happened in our living memories. That's what people say. At least in my living memory, this is what I have seen, the fastest technological change which is affecting our work lives. And before we begin, I want to give full disclosure. I'm a Elon fanboy on his engineering matters, not political. And I drive a Tesla. I have Tesla power. Therefore, you may color what I say, but take it with a pinch of salt as to what I'm going to discuss. You will know why I'm saying all of this later. Okay, let's begin. I wanted to take a big picture view first. So that's what I'm going to be talking initially. And then I would say which are the AI platforms I actually experimented with. And then I will go to discuss the model performance, how these different platforms perform. And these are all resources I used from the net. Okay, these are all external information. Then I start playing with it myself. Then simple questions like can they count something? Like when you're writing a report, see, so can they count the words, stuff like that, and then can they fetch the data? These are all the things we do as economic researchers. Can they do visuals? And can we restrict the AI models to investigate only our knowledge base, not wander everywhere else? And then how do we research non-textual information? And then the so-called deep research, and what are the caveats? Now, all these I'm able to do because I consider myself, I have actually and I'm an early adopter for many of these new technologies. I probably one of the first few who took on ChatGPT and Grok and everything. So I'm an early adopter. So the experience is all very personalized, and it is like a snapshot as of a couple of days ago. So this is a fast changing field. Whatever we say, the companies are always adding more and more features. So bear in mind that this is a fast moving thing. So we have taken a snapshot, and that's what we are discussing. Let's jump right in. Now, the fundamental question here is the silicon brain better than a human brain? Why should we even bother using machines to understand economic research or research in general? Now, there are several metrics by which the silicon brain trumps the human brain. One is the pure compute power, number of floating point operations per second. It's like a trillion times faster than the human brain, a trillion times. That's how fast they can compute. And processing speed is unimaginably faster than the human brain. And the bandwidth, the rate at which they can ingest input is also much, much higher. And then the output bandwidth is also much higher. We know this from practice. The way I'm speaking, I can deliver only a few words per minute or type only a few words per minute, but the computers can do much, much faster. Then the latency, the human biology has some limits. Like 200 milliseconds is our latency. Like this is like the visual perception is probably the fastest. There's 200 milliseconds it takes for me to react to anything. But the computers react at like photon speed. So they're much, much faster. And the memory capacity of the human brain is unexplored, but it's huge. It right now in this comparison, what I'm looking at is something called H100, which is the NVIDIA's computer chip, which was introduced 2 years ago. So the memory is only 80 gigabytes for the H100, but it can be scaled up. As much money you have, you can throw at it, and you can scale up much bigger than that. Now, the downsides. The energy used, human brain uses very little energy, like 20 watts or something. But the computers use huge amount of energy. The other downside is that to train a human brain, you don't need much. It can learn from a few shot, few experiences you give, the brain learns. Whereas for the computers, you have to train them with enormous amount of data, and there's a training time. You need a huge data, you need a lot of computing power trained, then only it starts delivering. Now, the interesting thing is the current rule is it scales linearly. All the abilities of these models scale linearly with the amount of data and compute power you throw at it. Now, data, people think it's exhausted. Whatever is there to crawl on the World Wide Web, everything has been crawled and ingested into the models. So the improvements are taking place only in the computing power. Now, this applies only to public domain data. Now, all the very private information which is kept by people, it does not have access to, such as all the patents and all those things. It doesn't know what is actually proprietary information which is behind the paywalls. It would not know. Whatever is out there, it knows. So still, that's a lot. That has been almost exhausted. Now, therefore, what you find in general is that the computer brain can be much superior to us in several tasks, provided you have the money to throw at it in setting up these machines. Now, what has happened is that how do you make computers perform tasks? I'm old enough to have gone through all the evolutions of the software. And the software one, we used to write code by hand. We have to know what exactly we are doing. We have to define the logical steps. I used to write Fortran in my earlier days. Now I do Python. So we used to do program whatever economics research we want to do. We have to write everything down, the logical steps. Then came the software 2 revolution. Software 2 revolution is you just give the computer what input you have and what output you want. It programs itself. That is the neural network for you. Now, that stage requires a lot of machine learning expertise. I have done one machine learning course also some time back. Now, we are in the third stage of software 3.0, where natural language English is our Hindi or Nepali is the programming language. You just tell what you want and the computers do, and you just keep prompting until you get the desired results. So this is the overall phase with which the software has evolved. And this is the view of Andrej Karpathy, one of the brightest young minds I see in the AI field. I don't know how many of you know about him. So he doesn't even have a PhD, but it is the best brilliant brain. He worked in Tesla, OpenAI, and whatnot. Now, which are the tools that I examined for this webinar? Now, you'll find that I have about 9 models here, which I looked at. Now, 5 of these are basically US-based models. The OpenAI, of course, and then the Google's Gemini, Anthropic has Claude, and Perplexity. I hear that you guys have been using Perplexity as CSEP. I looked at that as well. And then, of course, I'm a fanboy of Elon, so I used the Grok also. And these are the five models from US that I use. And there are 3 models from China. And, like the Sputnik moment, people talk about the DeepSeek moment. Suddenly, the DeepSeek was released from China, and it started performing as good as the other best performing US models. Then there were other models also coming from China, like Qwen and Kimi K2 is the latest. Now, Europe is trailing behind. Europe has a model called Mistral from France. These are the models I looked at. I have access to all of these things. Some of these are priced, and we'll discuss, what I actually what versions I use later. Now, some of these models are open, some of these are closed. See, the US models tend to be closed, except for Facebook's Llama, which I have not used, which requires some coding, so I have not done that. Now, China has actually done a better job. It has released all the weights. It has an open AI model, which they are happy to release. Now, if you look at that, the size of the models correlate very well with the performance of the model. Now, we are talking about trillion parameters these days. Now, it's no longer billions. And the US companies no longer even disclose what is the model size. And then there are several techniques are also people developing, like distilling a big model and then coming up with answers close enough. So that is why you find that DeepSeek is able to answer well only with 685 billion parameters. And then, for example, Kimi K2, which is released a couple of weeks ago, it has 1 trillion parameter, but you're not actually using that. They do have some clever ways of something called mixture of experts. They look at the prompt, look at a question and deploy several subparts of the big model. Unlike the OpenAI or Grok, they roll out the whole big model to answer even small questions. So these are the models I looked at. And how do they perform as of now? So how do you judge these models? So when I looked at the benchmarks, there is something called humanity's last exam. I don't know how many of you are familiar with that. And it's basically crowdsourced questions in all subjects, which are like PhD level, extremely difficult questions. And this is much harder for humans. A typical human being can answer only like 5% of this. They cannot answer anything. But the models can answer across all fields. And I was just curious, what percentage of this belong to our domain of expertise, like economics. And then I found like 9 to 10% of the 3,000 questions were in the economics domain. Now, which models do better in this benchmark comparison? This is from the leaderboard from the humanities last exam site itself, not by somebody else, but the humanities last exam. There is a leaderboard which is public. They periodically run this. Now, you will find that Grok 4 leads. It is able to answer 25% of the answers correctly. That's outstanding, because the human being can answer at best 5%. So this is great. Then Gemini comes closest second. Now, what I want you to take away from this is that Grok 4, Gemini are very good. These are very difficult tasks, and they are able to reason very well in this kind of tough context. So remember, these are very hard for humans, but how well the models perform using artificial intelligence, that's what we are looking at here. Some of the clouds are all way down. So, but DeepSeek is like number 4. That's a surprise for me. So this is what you should keep in mind when you're shopping for the best platforms. Now, I wanted to look at, I'm not interested in material science or chemistry. I just wanted to look at what kind of questions they have. I took a sample question from there and then put it through all the models to what they come up with. So are you able to see the question which is here? There is a demand curve and there is a supply curve, which look quite complicated. And then you are supposed to find the total welfare using the market equilibrium condition. I'll just show you the visual here. This is how it looks like. This is the demand curve. This is the supply curve. What you are supposed to compute is the sum of the consumer surplus and producer surplus. This is the challenge we have given those equations. Now, I don't know how many of you can immediately do it, but this takes some time to figure out how to do these things. Now, how the models perform? See, the correct answer is 22.52 for this economics question. Now, OpenAI got it right. It immediately gave 22.52, not immediately, meaning it worked a little bit and came up. Graph 4 came close enough, 22.77. Then from Quen, we start losing it. Now they are not close. Quen is exceeding, and Gemini gave only 16.95. Claude gave 10.81. And Perplexity was worse. It gave the answer minus infinity. So it gave the worst answer. And the French Lichat did not even bother to answer this. It was just spinning and spinning without answering. Now, what we have to remember is that these AI models have what is being termed as a jagged intelligence. They're not intelligent consistently. Right? You know, they have a comparative advantage in certain type of questions, they don't yet deal with it. It's not still artificial general intelligence spreading across all kinds of questions. We are not there yet. So this feature is called the jagged intelligence. Now, from now, I test my own prompts. Often we want to, when you write something, we have to write in the best way in a short space. Like, you know, we have to count the words. You know, give me a 1,000-word summary or things like that. So can we actually use these models to simply count? Now, I gave it a test paragraph which had 91 words, which is counted by your word processor programs. And I simply pasted this paragraph and asked these models to count the number of words. Now you find that it used to be very bad. Now almost all the models get it right. And from you know, all the Grok, Open, AI, Claude, Gemini, DeepSeek, all of them get it right. Now, I won't mind the French model saying a little bit less. Quen, I don't like Quen or Perplexity or Kimi, you know, they can't even count the number of words. The possible difficulty here is that I don't know how they deal with the spaces between words. They should be able to correctly perceive the spaces. I don't know why they are failing. So please bear this in mind. So in my mind, only the first 4 models are good enough for me when I'm writing a report. So this is just a paragraph. Suppose I give you a long document. You know, we'll talk later about something called a context rot. The longer the context you have, the models kind of degrade. You know, if you give a short context and they are able to answer, if you keep on piling question after question and the context becomes long, they don't perform too well. Now, so here I gave a long document, say CSEP, your boss wants you to do a 5,000 word summary of something, you know, and then how well you can do, these models do. So the true count of the document I gave was 6,860 words. And we'll see some complexities in this. Now, I wouldn't mind up to say OpenAI, you know, they are able to come very near, and then rest of the models are pretty useless. Now, why this can be quite complex is that how do you count a word? See, in my document, I had like typical report from our research. Like we have references, there are hyperlinks, and there are tables and all kinds of stuff. Now, how they deal with this? You know, there are still some wrinkles there. That's why you don't get it. So in terms of writing a summary report, fitting to your size, you have to be very careful that these models don't do a great job, except when you go with Gemini or OpenAI. That's what I would say, you know, writing textual stuff. Now, the other question we have in economic research is, can I delegate these models to go fetch some data? Right now, say I want some indicators from WDI, or which the trade data, can I simply ask, I give you a list of countries, I give you a list of indicators, go fetch this data. They don't. They cannot go to any particular platform like WITS and then fetch this data for me. But they will go over the web and whatever is there in the public domain without querying whatever is there, they will go and fetch that. The best way will be for these database providers to move towards natural language queries. Then only we can get the best answers. Otherwise, what people are doing is that they write some, they take the APIs. APIs are basically application programming interfaces which are distributed by the databases, so that you don't have to manually sit and do. You can programmatically retrieve data from the databases. This is what people use the API for. So we can get the API keys from these databases, and we can have our own Python code or whatever code you prefer to run and get the data. What it will require, you need an API key from these databases and a dictionary of which data is to be accessed how. So then we can get this done. Now, if you've heard of it, the latest wave in AI is this agentic workflow. You can deploy agents which do a particular task, not general purpose questioning and answer, but particular tasks you can delegate. One can develop an agent to do some work like this, and it requires some work. Right now, I think it requires some programming work and API, but the agentic workflow will make this much simpler. I'm kind of using, this is very recent, so I have not had enough time to play with agentic workflows, but this is a very promising area. Right now, agentic workflow, for example, in our economic news, economic research context, you can set up an agent to go like, you report to work like 9 a.m., you can go at 8:30 a.m. and fetch the latest economic news. You don't have to stop at your door to pick up the Financial Times Business Standard, see what is the news. The agent can fetch this for you. The moment you go and sit in your chair, in our office, you will know what is the news of the day. So this is one thing I wanted to tell you. Now, often we need to do excellent visuals, powerful visuals for our tasks. Now, here, I have played with this a lot. And then my conclusion so far is the OpenAI trumps every other platform. So it's getting better and better by the day. So here's an example. I asked, get the annual addition of dispatchable capacity, is basically coal and gas electric power capacity for the 12 years from US, China, and India. I'll tell you the reason why I wanted to do this. Now, it says that it quickly did this for me, and maybe I have one more prompt. And then the second prompt I gave was that, move the China to the y-axis, things like that. It used to be a pain to do all these things in Excel. Now I simply prompt that, move China to the right-hand side y-axis, and it immediately does a good job. And now I did some other things like also like quarterly GDP of India, and it's able to do an amazing job. It can annotate also like the important turning points in the time series. It does an amazing job. Now, a brief aside why I wanted to show you this annual capacity addition in so-called dispatchable baseload is that US, despite the advances in AI, is lagging behind in electric power capacity additions. Electric power capacity additions are critical for future AI development. You have to have this AI factories, so to say, and then they consume enormous power. And this power can come from stable sources. It cannot come from wind and solar and such things which run during the day only. Now, we need power which is available on the tap all through the day. So that comes from coal and gas. And who is leading here? Of course, China. So see, Trump clamped down on the chips which China can have access, like H100 and H200 is also available now. These are very advanced chips. Now, Jensen Huang of NVIDIA, he created a separate chip to comply with the US export controls called H20. And then that only can be shipped to China. But that chip is can do with very little power, and then still they are able to almost match US in the AI model performance. And this also I have some concern, because we are talking mostly to the Indian audience, I hope. Now, see, India is not doing very well in annual capacity additions to thermal and gas. We are also wedded so much to renewable energy, which is great. But for running AI factories, we need stable sources of power. This is something of concern. That's also a point for me to think why India has not come up with any AI models of its own. US has given us 5, and then China 3, and France 1. Why India is not done? Now, Jensen Huang of NVIDIA says that all these models have been started only by 150 people. Only 150 AI engineers have crafted OpenAI. So DeepSeek has 150 people only. India is far more. And why we are not able to come up with AI models which are relevant for India, I'm not sure. This is something for us to flag. But eventually, I think culturally sensitive models, country-specific models, may have to be developed. Now, let's see, how would you do? See, in a typical research, you have already collected a lot of documents which you want to read over several days or weeks. You are reading through this and you are getting distracted. Then when you're reading, you want to take notes from this. Now, all this task has become very simple now. What I recommend, others have also come up with some competing products. I think Google's Notebook LM is outstanding in this. So you upload all the documents you want to use in your research. You have to download the PDF document from somewhere. Even if it is behind the paywall, you go and get that. And then upload all this into your folder. And then you can ask all kinds of questions on that. The latest feature they have added is even a video overview. I can create presentations from that, synthesized. Now, I use this a lot because not all the information is textual. Much of the current information is coming from the lectures. Like YouTube lectures is a very important source of information for me. So because it's a Google product and this is well integrated with YouTube, so you can just paste a YouTube link, and then they say, I have a Peterson Institute lecture running for 2 hours. I don't have so much time to understand what's going on. I can upload the link to that, and then you can actually summarize that, and you can even keep prompting who said what and what is the particular issue from the summary. And then I think it's an excellent time saver, which I strongly recommend. And also it can automatically generate podcasts. I have done one at least and then shared with the team before. See, we did a report on why India is lagging behind in manufacturing competitiveness. And I could turn that very easily into a Hindi language podcast, 2 people talking with each other about this. And then Sanjay said that it's really excellent. So right now, these podcasts have kind of, they have one male voice, one female voice, and soon people will become more creative with this. So that's the other thing. You know, there are other platforms also have equivalent products. I have not tried them and had time to try them, but I think others have tried even OpenAI's project spaces. So this is it's an excellent resource. I would strongly recommend this. not only textual, you can put YouTube lectures. I have tried even podcasts. You can put link to podcasts, audio podcasts, and then it can summarize. And then so this way, our knowledge absorption of what's going on is very, very fast. Now, suppose you want to do a deep research, so-called deep research. How is deep research different from any question and answer? Is that here, I don't know how many of you remember Daniel Kahneman, the Nobel Prize winner. He was talking about the brain reacting in slow and fast modes. The fast answers are quick and dirty, and slow thinking you reflect a lot and come up with better answers. People, the AI engineers that have copied that, and they make the AI models think very deep and then research and not rush to provide an answer quickly. So I find that I ran this across all the models. The question I posed is the Section 232 steel tariffs imposed by United States in the recent history, last 12 years. And then what I said is it just chronicle them, what exactly happened, and what is the impact on the US economy, on the rest of the world. And if you're interested, I can share all of this in a Google folder. But overall, I found the Grok 4 and Gemini 2.5 Pro gave excellent reports, and Gemini gives slightly longer. So how do we use this? My recommendation is that there's something called Elicit, which collects all the references very nicely. So you can you can subscribe to Elicit, gather all these bibliological references, and then harvest all the PDFs which are behind the paywall and collect them, all put them behind Notebook LM, and then start doing your work. I want you to try Notebook LM. It's amazing. And now we are approaching the end of my short presentation. Now, how do we, what are the caveats? Now, I have tried paid versions only. I have tried paid versions in the first year, which up to $20, $30 per month, not the $200, $300. Now, the earlier you remember we compared how the models perform in humanities last exam. Grok was scoring 25. That was with the normal one. There's something called Grok Heavy, and which scored like 45% scored it correct. Now, meaning the more you pay, the more power they give you to answer questions. So, an organization like CSEP, I think we should subscribe to something like Grok Heavy, so that we get more and more accurate answers. And then I hope we can work out a license which can be used for all people in CSEP. And the other caveat I want to say is, of course, what I want to say there is that the more money you are able to pay, probably you get more well-reasoned answers. So don't hesitate on that. The second thing is you need to give elaborate custom instructions. You cannot simply throw a vague question and try to get an answer. Over time, they get better with the custom instructions. Like when my custom instructions I can share them also. Basically, I say that when I like to see things compared in a table, and the other thing I say is that if you're unsure, don't keep on going after it. Just say that you are unsure of something. And then the other thing I have already talked about the context. You can get addicted to prompting and getting answers, and you can sit there for an hour just spinning, but actually the answers don't improve after some time. So that I want you to remember. That's called context RAR. Now, my major concern is if you use OpenAI, if you're doing an excellent visual and then next day you want to submit all this to a journal because everything has to be reproducible. How do you reproduce the beautiful chart you throw into your report? So my practice is that if you just go on rerun, it may not work. I don't know. So what I would suggest is that you ask the models to give you the Python code, and preferably in a Jupyter notebook. If you don't know about Jupyter notebook, I can talk about it. That is the way to organize your workflow when you're doing number crunching. And and also run the same questions across a few platforms which you can afford, and run them, see, compare between them, because verifying is the most important task we have to do. And in the same question, it may give a different answer. So run it a couple of times to see whether it gets the same answer from the same platform and across different platforms. That's what, these are the caveats. I would like to pretty much stop here and ask for your reviews. Sorry if I went over time.
Thank you so much, TG. That was excellent, truly. We are all discovering a completely new world, and very strangely, it's rare that you find someone who has seen the first years of coding in Fortran also being involved and immersed in being amongst the early takers of AI tools. So it's very, very glad that you agreed to do this. May I now invite our associate fellow Rishita Sachdev to share her thoughts and views. And please try and make it in less than 10 minutes, Rishita, because we'll also try and see if some people in the audience can take
Sure,
questions.
sure.
Thank you.
First, thank you for this very insightful presentation. One thing I like to point out that how integrated AI has become in our everyday life. I was just going through how many people are online, and about 10 are note-taking AI, Auto.ai, note-taking apps of people who have just added that, even right now. Uh, so, few points that I wanted to get your insights on. What do you think about it? I think on your slide two, you show evolution of software over time, how it was hand coded, then machine learning, and then AI. What is the time span that we move from one stage to the other, and what does the future look like? Like, what is next for us now after AI? Is the jump going to be quicker? What should we look for? Just curious to know about that. Um, then a lot of your analysis was based on very hard-hitting problem-solving questions, PhD level. But when I work as an economist at CSEP, so a lot of times when I'm using AI, it's not just for problem solving, it's also for other factors such as how good is your graphical interpretation, how good are your subjective answers, how good you put some storytelling elements, writing. So, is there a way, some systematic way that we can rank these AI tools and compare which one is the best for me for all these other metrics as well? Um, then I had one more thing on, yes, this ranking part, and hallucinations is a big problem that we face. And a lot of time goes into just verifying what is right, what is not right. So is there a way that we can deal with something like hallucinations? How do it's just manual verification, how do I prevent it? Uh I've heard that paid subscribers, paid subscriptions have lesser hallucination, and as you were also saying that as you keep leveling up in the payment scheme, you get better results. So is that valid for hallucinations as well? Uh, and yes, this is my summary of all the points I'm curious about.
Thank you, Rishita. I mean, you took much less than 10 minutes. And over to you, Rohit. Rohit has also an avid user of AI. In fact, he's my go-to person for all quantitative analysis that I'll try to try to do on AI. So Rohit is an associate fellow as well, and he's trying to use more and more AI on his modeling and energy work. So Rohit, over to you.
Yeah. Thank you for the presentation. Basically, you have given three different examples. Like one is based on how to solve the non-linear equation in that social welfare question. So my understanding is that the how to write the prompt. If you use in any model, if you use one line that use multiple methods and then cross check, simple prompt, then it will give you the same answer with different methods, because whatever you saw in the nonlinear equations, those can be solved conventionally with numerical methods like Newton adaptation. You can use Fausti coupled method, you can use trapezoidal rule, or simplistic you can use linear approximation. So basically different methods gives different answers. So there can be two possibility of error. One is within 5%, or one is beyond 20 or 30%. So beyond 20 or 30% is basically depends on the specific knowledge of that model about that domain. So suppose you have two different curve of supply and demand. So that with using direct integration method, it will give you an answer within 10. That is far beyond the actual answer. So it will always depend what you write and what you ask to that models. And in the second example, that was on word count. So again, for word count, suppose generally what I use for word count is I am giving a paragraph of 300 words, and I ask ChatGPT or any other tool to reduce it to 200 words by keeping the actual knowledge of that paragraph. So sometimes it gives me 256 words, sometimes it gives me 240 words. So what I generally do is I just put a line that cross check your answer and assign a penalty to your wrong answer. So penalty is a keyword that program can learn. So it takes time and give me an answer. So it's depend on accuracy versus speed. So I think if you are asking a simple question, models can give some models will give its answer in very high speed. So there is a chance of error. So we can just iterate multiple times and revise our prompt to get a correct answer. And one more example that you give is about visualization. So I am using Julius AI, which is very good for visualizations, and it can visualize uh, all sort of graphs with different interesting ways. Like you can change different point with different index, different point with different colors, and even you can make in a same graph you can zoom in something and highlight that. So we're using only in those language models. So my one what I understand in all using all those tools is it depends on what you ask. So if you improvise your prompt, then you can get the answer. Yeah, that's it. Thank you.
Yeah, let me try to respond to this. I think the hallucination is probably the worst fear we all have. But the I have looked at the benchmark evaluations on model hallucinations, and they come up with something like 2.5%, 3% hallucination risk in all these models. Now, hallucination, I personally think it's not a bug; it's a feature of these models, because these models need to be these are making probabilistic predictions, and then we have to exploit this feature for the good use of the model. Now, whatever it comes up with, if the human has to be in the loop, like Andrej Karpathy is also saying, we have to be in the loop. We have to verify the fact, even if it looks so convincing the way they write the answers, it looks so convincing. Don't get carried away. You have to spend time verifying. That's what I would say. Hallucination, my way to avoid hallucination is to use notebook alone. I don't let it crawl all over the place to find an answer, because bad inputs can generate bad answers. The World Wide Web has a lot of crappy stuff also lying around. I don't know what training data, how they curated the training data, what feedback mechanism they used, what RAG they used, we don't know. So it is better to be ring fence our knowledge base and then query from there. That's probably the best way to minimize the hallucination errors. And then of course, they can give the links also. Now, in terms of the evolution, how fast it has evolved and where it is heading, I'm only a user of this. What I cannot predict the future, but it's getting compressed. The rate of progress is getting compressed. the more compute power they are able to throw at it, and the better the models perform. Now, I just want to spend 1 minute talking a little bit about the emergent capabilities of these models. Now, these were originally trained as natural language processing. They suddenly started doing very good in coding. Opening engineers says that they suddenly discovered they can code. Now, Claude is the leader in coding now using the AI model. So there are emergent capabilities. Now, in my own use, what I find surprising of late, I think Prerna also said it some time ago when she was talking with me, like once you develop a relationship with the model, it knows what exactly you want. And then these days it's able to not only do what I want, it also suggests follow prompts, right? Now it's already implementing those things. It goes beyond what you asked for, like an excellent research assistant. It goes beyond what the boss asks for and does a value addition to your question and comes up with an answer. So these emergent capabilities show up now and then, not all the time. So, and my prediction is that we are marching very fast into the AI revolution. Now, most of the typical, as far as the economic research goes, most of our work is in public domain, and so we can do an excellent work in terms of digesting this information. Whether they will come up with new arguments, I do not know. These are some emergent capabilities which may emerge. Now, right now, the wave is agentic. Basically, like a robot swarm, we can have an agent swarm. So we can give a task, and a group of agents can go, and it's called what's this called in Grok? It's like a study group. Like they all go and look at it and then come back with a consensus. So this is possible only with Grok Heavy. I have not tried the Grok Heavy because it's too pricey right now. So I have not tried it. Perhaps you guys can try how well that works. So agentic, I think maybe there's a bit of hype, but we all have to try agents. I tried some agents, simple agents, like give me the pre-market opening indices of US at 8-10 every day. Now I can give that. That's easy. Now our Sensex close the next day. You have to start playing with the agents, see how you can creatively use them. Now, visuals, I think you both are probably using the right tool, whatever you like. Let me tell you what I personally would like is that, having a visual, interpreting the visual is a very important step. Now, anybody can create a visual. Any AI can create a visual. Interpreting what is the message, main lessons coming from the visual is a hard task still left to us. They can take a first crack at it, right? So it's my wishful thinking that if you have, say, 500 good examples of, say, from your report or World Bank or IMF or whatever, best visuals and the interpretation of the visuals, we can train a local AI model to fine-tune a model to learn from this, train them, and then they can do an excellent job for us. Right now, it's the whole wide web is being scanned for this. We have a limited domain, and we know how to do the best visuals in our domain. We can train a model to do that, and it can simplify that task also. And yes, how well you prompt, what are your follow prompts are very important. The points made by you, Rohit, is very useful. It is better to bundle all these things in your custom instructions. And then we are all learning from each other, which are the best tools. So diversity is very good here. And then I would suggest that this kind of, it's a fast changing field. So we should discuss these things every quarter or so to see what are our experiences. I guess you guys are doing like a monthly meeting or weekly meeting on this. So you should.
We've started with a monthly meeting. And if I have my way, we'll make it into a weekly meeting because it's changing so fast, and the variety of experiences that we are having at CSEP is like amazing. So yeah, go on. Okay, so does
anything I missed?
Rishita, were your questions answered?
Yes, broadly they were answered. Yes.
Yeah, and Rohit, I think they were as well.
Yeah.
We have a lot of questions on which on online, but before that, may I put in my 2 or 3 thoughts as well, and they are actually queries. First, I feel that I would really like to see the emergence of agentic, because they are far more focused to the problems that we tend to work upon, and far less susceptible to some of these biases that all kinds of data can bring in. So, are you aware of what's happening there, and what are the kind of tools that might be available in the near future, especially within economics research?
Yeah, already, they're there. Do you want to add more questions, or can I answer
Okay,
one
so
question?
that's one. That's one. Second, you talked about Grok, and that's something I'm very curious about, because I myself haven't used it, but there are people talking about it more than I thought would. But given the recent experience with Grok and how it went completely, it went rogue, uh, do you think it makes sense to still pay top dollar on Grok, and especially since you had
What happened with Grok? Sorry, I didn't get
Grok,
it.
you don't know? It went rogue, and it started to it just got out of hand recently, last week, and had to be. I don't know if it's still stable yet or not, but there were a whole lot of anti-Semitic, anti
No. We're not
sexual
into this
things and
social
so
and all
on.
that crap. We're
Yeah,
into
but
hardcore.
yeah, but apparently it was seeped through in many different domains. So anyway, so that's this thing. But more importantly, given the fact that you have just mentioned $3 signs next to Grok, my question is, how does one even know whether it's worth bang for the buck? I mean, for as opposed to a regular paid one, a premium paid version, how does one even figure whether it's worth the dollar?
Oh, you can try it and pause it. It's not like an annual commitment. You can pay $300. It's nothing
No,
for a
the
month.
problem. Okay, so sorry. So there's an add-on question. Even assessing AI tools is a complex task. I mean, there are millions of parameters on which you need to, if not millions, at least tens of parameters. And for every question, you get different answers. So it's extremely difficult to assess these models. You have made an attempt, and that seems fairly comprehensive. But with a different set of questions, you can get different answers.
Yeah, I think
Those are
we
my
have
two
to have a
questions.
set of questions we want to look at, because it doesn't really matter whether it answers PhD level questions in material science. So for us, it should be able to fetch data, it should be able to make visuals, it should interpret it, it should cover recent events in a nice way. So we should have some sample set of prompts which we run through, and then pick the best one performing as of that date. So I do not like a permanent commitment. Like, you can always pause these subscriptions or cancel them anytime. So you're not committing $2,000 a year for any of this.
Okay, and the first question on agentic.
Oh, agentic is probably a wrapper. I tried the agents. Custom GPT is actually an agent. Like, you put the data that you want to query from. You put a database, and then you can start querying that database directly in natural language. So that's an agent. The agent that we are talking about is going and accomplishing tasks outside your system. Go to your website. Get this information, go to your database, get this information. So agentic is the latest development all these engineers are focusing on. It's a very new area. And then I played only with, we have few things of economic news so far. Now, I didn't have time, but if people like Rohit can actually try to run them on specific tasks you are actually doing, and then see whether you can assemble an agent from different companies and see which is able to perform better.
Thank you.
That's the way to go.
Okay, I'll one more chance, Rishita and Rohit. Any thoughts, any interventions? Or we'll go on to the audience questions.
Yeah, we can go for audience.
Okay, great. Thank you, Rohit. Rishita?
Yes, we can go on to the
Okay,
audience.
thank
I'm
you.
good.
Thank you. So we have a question from Arman Chaudhary, who asks, how can we learn to communicate with AI models efficiently? More importantly, context rot and hallucinations are two key components. You've already spoken about hallucinations,
Yes.
but context rot is another space which the increasing conversations happening there. Any thoughts on that?
Yeah, context rot is of late noted as a big issue because the context window has increased a lot these days, like 500,000 words and things like that. But the models don't perform very well just because they have a big context window. What is recommended is that as you go through your investigations with AI, ask it to summarize up to a point and then store that in a database, and then keep on building on that. Then later on, question only from the shortened distilled database rather than the entire. Don't keep on allowing the context window to grow and grow. So you can summarize and keep them and then query from there. That's one approach. And eventually, the context rot will be conquered by the AI models, by the competition among themselves.
Thank you. Ginny Susan Thomas asks about biases, and she asks, considering we use AI exhaustively in our research, do you think AI can be biased while producing results? You've already mentioned this, but I think the problem of biases in the Indian context, especially, I think does need to be uh, addressed.
Yeah, see, I think this probably afflicts much more the soft sciences, the biases, not so much in economics. For example, if you want to see what is the optimal trade policy, a protectionist policy, you can consider it a bias or not. There are only in certain contexts protection makes sense, not otherwise. So I think we are less prone to getting biased answers in economics. In social, like politics and other soft areas, you probably have more scope for biases. And I would suggest that you can actually prompt them to give alternative views on the same concept and then argue. And that's what I would recommend. And it's not a very serious issue in our area of work.
Yeah, and if I may add to that, I mean, we are not using AI as an end output generator. AI is just generating, giving you inputs for you
Yeah.
to then process and bring out the final output. So while using AI, we need to be always fairly aware
Yeah.
of what's what's coming out. Aisha Ahmed has a fairly long question, which I'm going to which I'm going to reduce in this thing. And I'm going to say, she says that a lot of upcoming research in econ has to do with the use of AI in digitizing old government records. And so she herself has been working on land records and census abstracts from the 50s and 60s and so on. And she's asking, apart from Gemini 2.5, where she gets 80% accuracy, which others would you think could do a better job?
I don't understand what kind of processing she's doing of these old records. If it is just OCR, these things, or what kind of work, I don't really understand. If it is, I would suggest OpenAI. She should keep it as an option, and Grok 4 don't rule Grok 4 out just because you don't like Elon Musk or what he says on politics. Let's take the best side of his work.
Okay. Okay, this is anonymous. Much of the government data is in image format, and most of AI tools fail to read through these documents. Is there a way to suggest this? I mean, I'm quite surprised because actually many of the AI tools are able to read even image or data which is in the image format. But anyway, any
Oh, I have a lot of experience grappling with this images and PDF file. Tariff data comes like that from governments. They don't like to give you an Excel file, even though they created from that. Now, if you're using PDF, Acrobat PDF, the paid version does an excellent job. Don't try using Python and all. You will be wasting your time. If you have an uh, Adobe Acrobat Pro version, it can do. And then that coupled with some Python coding and some visual inspection can get you to your results. For example, like 1,000 pages of Nepal tariff in Devanagari, tariff document. Trying to convert it into usable Excel file in English is a nightmare for anybody, right? So I was able to do that in maybe in a week or 10 days working on it. So throw yourself at it, use the best tools, which is Adobe Acrobat Pro, and use Python for cleaning it up.
Which gets me to an add-on question. If suppose I was completely illiterate on these technical matters and I still wanted to use AI, are there any consultants or who could one go to help to handhold the entry of a particular organization into AI?
These days, somebody who doesn't know how to use AI, I don't know. It's just natural language
No, but
prompting.
believe you me, there are quite a few. I can introduce you to a few. I mean, I get all sorts of questions, and especially on reading government documents, creating databases out of old texts is a very serious issue. I mean, I'm working on some issues related to cases, and we are trying to read case documents which are uploaded, convert them into a database to then eventually do some econometric analysis. Extremely difficult.
Have you looked at the legal AI developments? Like, there are many people working on the by cases you mean some legal cases, case histories, and there is a big group working on legal AI. So they may have already cracked this.
Okay. Okay. Now, I don't understand this question, but I'm going to read it out anyway. It's from Manish Bilor. What are your thoughts on running these models? Maybe DeepSeek or Raspberry Pi or an NVIDIA single board computer?
This looks like a hardware question. And I'm not a hardware engineer. Raspberry Pi is all like hardware. You can probably run these AI models on a Raspberry Pi. I know a little bit about the Raspberry Pi. You can burn some code and run some simple AI models. I would say that such things can be very specific to a particular task, not a general purpose. You can try with open models, some versions of it on it.
Okay, now I've got 3 questions. I'm going to read them one after the other, but I think they're all leading to asking you something about a hand-holding process in entry into AI. The first one is by Dr. Govind. Are there any systematic steps to do any task for preparing a document covering graphics, tables, etc.? The second is by Anand Srivastav. Can you suggest a few prompts to explore relevant topics in economic research? The third is Meet Kumar Makwana. How can early career researchers strike the right balance between domain expertise and AI proficiency? Essentially, if I'm going to just paraphrase this, is it possible or is it even wise to create a kind of a checklist, do this and do that? And would you suggest doing that to help people, at least in the early foray into this use?
I would suggest the following thing is that if we can have a follow-up meeting with people having these specific questions of introductory AI stuff, and then they don't know how to go about it in a systematic way from experienced people, I would suggest that we can hold a separate workshop where people like Rohit and others who have been ahead of the pack in using this, they can share their experiences, and it's like a lab. That's what I propose. You can have a AI introduction lab for work. So you can have several computers. Rohit or me can go around and then help people out instead of simply talking about it.
Okay, we will work upon that part. Ankit Heber, any good AI to transform images of graphs to extract XY data points? And an anonymous one, are there any good courses you would recommend to upskill on using AI? In fact, the last one is that's something that even I would like to get an answer to. Have you seen any courses to?
Oh, there are tons of
Yeah, I know
courses
you
in
have, but
Coursera.
yeah, but any that you would recommend?
This is a fast-moving field, and see, Andrew Ng, his courses I have done. That's where you should look. It depends, the courses are so many. Which area of interest, is relevant for your work. I don't know. So, just I would suggest that look at Coursera, and then you'll find the course. If you need any further guidance, you can ask me. You have my email in CSEP. You can ask me.
Thank you. Yeah, interesting question. Can deep learning ML models overtake the existing econometric methods? That's a tough
It's,
answer.
it's an interesting question. See, the econometric methods, they work on, say, some sample which are representative. They work with that. Now, the AI models, they use huge data to come up with patterns. It's a completely different paradigm altogether. Now, the econometric models, they grapple with basically causality. If you're not into the prediction business, if you're trying to explain an economic phenomenon, you are into causality. Now, causality is a difficult thing to solve using AI models yet. So that's what my cautious answer as of now. Deep learning is just a buzzword, it's a particular technical feature of the AI models. It doesn't amount to much. Now, what I struggle with is that the number of parameters are, mind-boggling. A trillion parameters, a trillion parameters, in econometrics minds think, what are all these deterministic parameters, or is there some errors around them? So I would suggest that you have to move away from that paradigm. Econometric problems is a different group of investigations, and that's different. So don't mix the two.
My own experience has been that AI can never replace good quality econometrics.
Yeah.
It's the problem is that a lot of econometrics is not good quality and it's done fairly blindly. It's my experience generally. I mean, that's what I've seen, is that most papers are not really motivating the question well enough or going deeper into why they're asking such questions. So I think if you ask the right question, if you frame the question well, I don't think AI can actually replace that component. It may be able to do a regression, yeah, fine, but
of course.
but that's
I agree.
Okay. I have another question. It's on energy optimization. And actually, I have a few other questions which are very specific. Can AI do graphs, or how do you extract points from a graph? Can AI do energy optimization? Uh, I mean, I'm just going to share some of these with you, knowing fully well that you may or may not want to answer these questions because they are too specific uh, to specific issue questions here. Or can it do PowerPoints, or how do you do PowerPoints on AI? Well, what happens is that most of them give you an HTML file, which then needs to be converted to a PPT.
No. They can generate slides right away.
Okay, in a PPT kind of a format.
Yeah.
All right. Okay. I haven't seen that. So, okay, and an XY graph, and can you take points from an XY graph? There must be some tool that can do that, I'm
Yeah,
sure.
reverse engineering an image to see what are the data values. This basically image recognition. I think it's possible.
Okay, energy optimization, the way Plexos and other models do.
I don't know much about energy optimization, or nothing at all, actually. So
Okay, so there were 16 questions which you have taken all of 15 minutes to answer. I'd now like to just, before we close, just, want to get your feedback on one thing which I've been grappling with. When we start to use AI, two things happen. One, you get access to far more information far quicker. So there are two forces that happen in the research process. Now you have much more information because they really have done a very good search, much better than we typically end up doing, right? So you have far more information, but you have it much quicker. So how do you use this combination to actually reduce the time? Because it, in a sense, it can also take much longer to come out with a research output if you end up researching or studying every single reference, let us say, that comes your way. So it may actually increase the time taken, or it may reduce it because it's just available to you quicker.
I think it's undoubtedly a productivity enhancer. Okay, I no longer listen to hours of lectures. Now you have to have the conviction the AI models are distilling the wisdom from a 2-hour lecture, and if you just quickly going through the text, which is half a page or 1 page, is enough for you to. You don't need to even go revisit the lecture completely. So I think it's a sure way to enhance your productivity. The more information you are able to harvest much quicker and distill it much faster. So I don't see any drag on our time.
Do you think research processes need to change? In the sense that, well, we do all those standard things. We look at data, we do the analysis, we do our verification checks, and then we write the study. And AI is now helping us do each of those, and it is also hopefully do it better. But do you think anything will change in terms of the research process as we go along?
I think it's going to compress, like the curation of data that you use, that still has to be done by humans. So the AI can fetch, but whatever proprietary information, whether the information is correct and you want to ring fence, that curation process is still human. And then verification process is still human. So I think the in-between process is going to compress a lot. The pure processing of multimodal information, that's going to be very fast. And we have to be at the two ends of this, prompting and curation of data, or knowledge base, and then also verification and making sure that it doesn't produce any nonsense results. So in between process, which used to take a lot of time, is getting compressed enormously.
Mm-hmm. So I read somewhere that, well, I didn't read, I heard somewhere that AI will not reduce jobs. However, people who use AI will take over people who don't use AI. Now, do you ascribe to that that jobs will remain, except that now everyone will need to use AI?
Meaning in our domain?
In our domain, absolutely, only in our domain.
In our domain, I think we can do with less research assistants per se, because one research assistant can do much more work now. But still, I think it's going to save a lot of budget, but you can deploy that on the tasks that you're yet to attend to, right? So you always have more questions than budget. So
TJ, I've heard this elsewhere as well. But my question is, why should I reduce research assistants? I mean, can't I just reduce the senior researchers? Why do I need so many senior researchers? I mean, why is the assumption that the pyramid will get less pyramidal, right? So why
it
do you
depends.
think actually?
Yeah, it depends how much you can automate. Can you automate a senior researcher's work? I don't know. Because
so I don't know either. It's just a question because clearly none of us know how this will pan out.
But probably we are protecting our jobs, or I don't know. What I'm saying is that some of the tasks which can be automated, whether senior researcher or investigator or research assistant, all the automatic tasks and scheduled tasks can be done by AI. So. And we can always redeploy resources to higher value addition. That's the way I feel about it. I don't think at the end of the day jobs will shrink, but I think we have to redeploy and deliver more value-added results.
So you feel teams which are producing the same output, even in our domain, can be smaller?
Yeah, definitely. Okay. And then you can produce better quality output. You can use the same research assistant numbers, but do higher level tasks.
a deeper dive, wider dive into it, and so on. Well, great. Thank you so much. And I'll just check again if there are any additional questions. No, there aren't. Well, thank you so much, TG. This has been truly very, very informative. And I think I can speak for our discussants as well, that this has been one of the most, how do I put it, candid conversations on AI that we've had in the public domain, at least related to our profession. And I hope that we are able to do this again in a month or two, or perhaps at the end of the next year.
Sure.
And on the audience, thank you so much for being here, for listening to us. I think, let me just share an email, and please feel free to write on that. Just a minute. I'm going to, I think all the panelists, we will later be emailing you and just sharing an email where you can send any additional questions that you may have. Thank you, TG. Thanks, Rohit.
Thank
Thanks,
you.
Rishita.
Thank you all. All right, bye.
Thank you. Bye.